Kaiju number 8 is not the hero that you believe him to be, and it actually might be one of the most neutral characters in the entire series. But why do we know so little about it, and why did it choose our main character Kafka? Luckily, clues have been left for us to understand the purpose behind Kaiju number 8. In the series, we first meet number 8 in the hospital after the cleanup incident. When freezing on this image, we can see some unique properties to this kaiju that make it stand out from the rest. Its shape is insect-like in nature and has many characteristics of a parasite. For instance, look how Kaiju number 8 compares to this close-up of a tapeworm. Slap some wings and arms on it, and bam, you have Kaiju number 8. We can see throughout the manga that it also displays some parasitic characteristics. And yes, if you haven't figured it out by now, there are going to be some spoilers. Some of these characteristics include living inside of Kafka, generally not wanting to kill him, and lastly, number 8 has indirectly hurt Kafka by spreading pathogens. Obviously, number 8 lives inside Kafka, we understand that, it's pretty basic. And we also see this monster generally needing him to be alive. This is most obviously shown to us when Kaiju number 8 takes over during the fight against the Director General. There's a moment when the kaiju takes control and unleashes its full power in order to keep Kafka alive. Now regarding pathogens, this is where it gets very interesting. We can see the pathogens play out when Kafka's body's no longer able to return back into human form, or at least some parts of him. So when looking at all the evidence, it seems pretty obvious that it's definitely a parasitic kaiju. But what's its purpose and why did it choose Kafka? Well, when we're first introduced to this kaiju, it only says 3 words.
Found you.
Kaiju!
Number 8 makes it very apparent that this incident was definitely premeditated. But why? Well, I have a theory. We know that Kafka is generally nothing special and he's never passed the entrance exams before. He's also a loving oaf of a character that has 2 missions in life. One is to stand by Mina's side, and the other is to fight kaiju. As simple as it may sound, I believe this to be the reason number 8 chose him. Kafka simply lacks ego.
Good job.
Now, some might fool around with the theory that Kafka was chosen because of his lack of ability to utilize the suit's power. And that's an entirely different theory completely that sends you down a long rabbit hole that we can get into in another video. But hear me out. I think Kafka has actually way more control over his suit than we realize. I believe that number 8 is intentionally preventing him from using his suit's power, so Kafka is forced to transform. Now, but why is that? The reason for this is simple, and it's because the kaiju only wants one thing. It wants to fight, and it wants to fight other kaiju. I believe that chapter 66 reveals a lot regarding number 8's relationship to mankind. Toward the end of the chapter, we see the ghost of a samurai standing in front of Kafka. At this point, Kafka has some sort of mental fuzz when looking at this armored warrior. Not only does the mask look very similar to number 8, but the body type does as well. I mean, look at his transformation. It looks like a samurai suit of armor. At first, this scene could be dismissed entirely, but I believe this reveals a lot behind number 8. Several chapters later, we find Kikoro in a death battle in which her suit reveals images of her mother. Her mother once wore the same suit she did, and as a result, the memories can sometimes be shown to the wearer, almost like watching a ghost. I believe that this is the exact same thing that is happening to Kafka. Kafka was shown a vision of a human that number 8 previously had as a host. But what do these people even have in common? Well, they both exist during a time of complete catastrophe. The challenge, as it is now, has never been more extreme. And when we really think about it, Kafka actually comes off as a pretty simple choice. If number 8's goal is to fight the strongest kaiju, it would make sense for it to choose a host that doesn't care for any personal gain, just like a samurai that's selfless and recklessly brave. Kafka isn't really the type of person to even want power out of pride. In fact, number 8 might even need its ego to have similar alignment to its host in order to optimize its strength. Let's think about this and look back at Vice Captain Soshiro. When he wore number 10 into battle, their egos clashed. You see, Soshiro wasn't able to achieve optimal power, that is, until he fully aligned his will with number 10's will. So, having explained all of this, we can kind of conclude 3 things. Number 8 is a parasitic kaiju that requires a host with a similar ego. Along with this, having a similar ego will allow its strength to be optimized. Hence the theme throughout the entire story about ego, pride, and a desire for power. In addition to all of this, number 8 has been around for a very long time and probably had several hosts throughout its lifetime, as seen by the flashback with the samurai. It was almost as if number 8 was telling Kafka that he was part of the worst battle in history. But what does all of this mean for Kafka? What is the fate for our beloved oaf of a character? Well, Kafka's heart has already been consumed, and it's been made clear that the longer he's transformed, the less and less human he is. So I think that there are 3 possible outcomes for this character. The first theory, and the one that I believe most likely to happen to Kafka, is that he becomes 100% kaiju. But I believe that when this happens, Kafka's body is actually going to fail, and he will die. This will ultimately result in Kaiju number 8 molting from his body, leaving, flying off, and finding another host later down the road. The second and less likely theory is that number 8 will take full control and choose to fight all the officers. The idea behind this is that, well, if Kaiju number 8 truly desires to just fight other kaiju, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe back in history, kaiju were the strongest beings in existence, right? So now that mankind has caught up to the kaiju with their suits, maybe he'll want a different type of challenge. Now, the third and final theory that I have is the less likely out of all of them, and I just don't really see it happening, is that Kafka will be killed, sacrificing himself to save everyone. Kafka is known throughout the entire story for running to the rescue no matter what type of risk is associated with it, right? Now, what if that risk pushes him too far to the point where he actually ends up dying to save everyone? Kafka is known for running into battle recklessly, right? To save everyone no matter the risk. So I could see him going to this battle, sacrificing himself to save everyone, but after the fight's over, I could see Mina kind of looking off into the distance where she saw Kaiju number 8 fly away to, hoping to someday see the reappearance of Kaiju number 8 so she can have that moment. Somewhere out there is a piece of Kafka. But anyway, these are just some of my theories. Let me know down below if you agree with any of them or you have your own take on this. I'd love to know. Love you guys. Bye.